Hey folks, David Molnar here. Welcome to Lightroom Classic 101. Now I am so excited for you because you're going to learn some amazing stuff inside this course. Now, most likely you're a photography enthusiast or aspiring professional photographer, and you're wondering, what do I do next after I take these photos? Maybe you've learned how to master your camera and shoot in manual mode, but the images don't quite look and feel like you remember seeing those incredible scenes or the beautiful portraits. Even if you shoot the images perfect in manual mode, getting exactly everything that you've intentionally wanted to capture, the images may still pale in comparison to what it really felt like when you were viewing that scene with your own eyes, okay? And this is because our cameras, as amazing as they are, can't actually capture all of the details that you and I see with our God-given eyes. Our eyes are better than our cameras, even still to this day, okay? So this is one of the main reasons we edit. We edit to recreate the emotion that we felt when we were viewing those scenes with our own eyes. Not to mention, we probably take a million extra photos. I know I sure do. I'm like, click, 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 click. How many of you guys are super trigger happy? I certainly am. I mean, sometimes I'll take 1,000 or 2,000 photos at a single photo shoot. When I would shoot weddings, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 photos, okay? Lightroom Classic is the program, the workhorse program that we're going to use to edit, to sort our images, to choose our images, to pick the best ones, to do all of the visual changes that we could ever possibly want to do to the images and make them look incredible. Lightroom Classic is the workhorse program that I would use to edit, album covers, family portraits, weddings, headshots, anything, landscape photography. It is the workhorse program that you're going to use the majority of the time for 99% of your editing while you're staring at a computer, okay? Now you might be wondering, what is the difference between Lightroom and Photoshop? Well, Adobe is the company that makes both programs, and they're actually complementary programs. But like I said, Lightroom Classic is the workhorse program that you're going to use for almost everything you're possibly going to do for the entire workflow in editing. Photoshop is for perfecting one image at a time. It might be doing head swaps, it might be swapping out backgrounds, it might be doing like skin retouching, like super in-depth stuff for perfecting the images. I would never even personally take an image into Photoshop unless one of my clients chose this as, hey, this is going to be my album cover, or this is my professional headshot, or this is the photo that I want to print of my wedding and make it 10 feet tall. That's the instance where you go in and you work on perfecting one image at a time. Lightroom Classic is where we do the majority of the process, okay? Now you may have noticed there are several different versions of Lightroom, specifically Lightroom Classic and a program called just simply Lightroom. Now Lightroom by itself is kind of the cloud-based program. I actually like to call that one Lightroom dumb, okay, because I don't like it. We're teaching in this course Lightroom Classic, which is the most robust, best editing, batch processing, workhorse program in the entire world, okay? So if that logo doesn't say LRC, it's the wrong one. So go for Lightroom Classic. And both of those programs are available to you in the photography plan that Adobe offers, but choose Lightroom Classic, and that's what we're going to be teaching throughout the duration of this course. All right, for a quick second, I want to talk about RAW versus JPEG. Now you can choose the different types of formats inside your camera when you're shooting, before you start shooting actually. You can choose whether to shoot RAW or shoot JPEG, okay? For the most part, I recommend 99.99% of the time to shoot in RAW. Okay, it's going to give you the most options in editing. It's going to give you more powerful options, and it's going to have an image that's slightly more moldable and just gives you more editing power inside of Lightroom and of course Photoshop later. Okay, JPEG is kind of like a finalized image. It's going to be a smaller format, and technically it's ready to print right away, but unfortunately it doesn't give you as much editing power, as much editing leeway in the post-production process. So a RAW file is going to be a larger file size, but it's going to give you the most editing options, and so that's what I recommend. That's what professional photographers shoot, and any photographer who's serious about taking amazing images every single time. The simple illustration that I can use to explain the differences between RAW and JPEG is that RAW photos are kind of like still wet concrete. When a construction worker is pouring the parking lot, they're going to pour the concrete, and for a little while it's still kind of moldable. okay? And then you can kind of mold it. You could put your handprints in it. I'm not saying I ever did that when I was a kid, but you can still kind of change stuff. You could, change it. You can shape it. That's like a raw photo. A JPEG is like when the concrete is already dried. Okay, you can't really do anything to it unless you want to like chisel it and chip it and break it and degrade the image. So that's why I don't really recommend shooting in JPEG if you plan on editing your photos afterwards, because you don't have as much editing options and you're just going to be degrading the image the entire time. Now in this course, we're going to be talking about the 5 steps to edit a photo shoot, okay? And I break it down into an acronym that I called DICE, okay? That's D-I-C-E. So it's 2 E's at the end, all right? The first letter, D, stands for downloading your images. We need to get those images off of your memory card that's inside your camera and into your computer, and ideally onto an external hard drive, okay? Then we're gonna import those images into Lightroom so that Lightroom knows what to look at, okay? That's the import process. We'll show you that in a minute. And then you're going to cull the images, not cull, but C-U-L-L, cull, which means to choose. You're going to choose which images you love, okay? You're going to choose which images that you want to get rid of, that you don't love as much, and we're going to focus on, choosing the images that you do love. Then we edit the images that you do love. We don't edit the bad images. We don't waste time with those, okay? And that's the first E, and the last E is for export. That's where we export our images to the JPEG format once they're finally edited, once they're ready, to upload to email, to, send to friends, to send to an online gallery, to upload to social media platforms. A JPEG format is what you want to upload. You can't upload a RAW file to Facebook. I'm sorry, guys. You need to actually edit the photo in RAW first and then export it so that it's ready for you to send to those other places. But after you've edited it, to recreate that emotion that you felt when you're viewing that scene with your own eyes. All right, folks, I'm so excited for you. Let's get started and jump right into the Lightroom 101 course.